talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina, upstate, ACC. Yeah. PFANATTIC, the fanatic where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what I see.
Welcome into the Fan Addict Sports Channel for sports fans by sports fans. It's your boy, Coach I. All right, man, tonight we're here to do a live stream. I got some of my buddies in here to come talk some of the craziness going on with college football. First up, man, I got Johnathan Lewis, college football with Johnathan Lewis. Johnathan, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, from Alabama, college football with Johnathan Lewis on YouTube. Twitter is at College FB Lewis. Love talking college football. Obviously, me and Coach I we could spend 8 straight hours, man, talking this stuff. So appreciate the invite. Obviously, come on here and talk some football.
No problem. Next up is my man JJ Kitchens, man, contributor to FQ Pitt on Twitter. What's going on, JJ?
Nothing much, man. Again, it's always a pleasure to be on your show and being able to talk college football. College football never ends. It's a all year round sport, and again, it's just this is going to be fun. You know, you can find me at JJ_Kitchen40 on my personal account, and then I help out the guys at FQ Pitt. Obviously a Pitt fan and ACC fan, and again, it's good to be here and talking some college football.
That's right, man. And the next guest up, my man Ryan Winter, Oregon fan through and through. What's going on, Ryan? Tell the people where they can find you, man.
What's happening, everybody? Out here on the West Coast. Hey, find me at Sports Chat 503. I'm out here. I do the duck videos and try to keep it real out here in the Pac-12. What's left of it?
Oh, man, exactly.
Yeah.
Pour some out for the Pac-12, people.
All right, we're definitely going to jump into the USC, UCLA joining the Big Ten, but one quick subject I want to touch on. How about the Texas A&M staffer getting caught on camera talking about the bag?
Bro.
Oh, man.
Knew that was coming.
Hey, so what y'all think of that, man? I mean, listen, we know the bag is getting passed around out here, but how do you let a recruit record you or a parent or whoever? What you think about that, Ryan?
Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, for us out here, that's absolutely pure enjoyment. I mean, everybody's talking about Nike money buying something. They haven't bought anything. There's some fancy uniforms.
I know, right? JJ, I'm just saying, like, when you was watching the dude say, hey, man, these people up here in these suites, man, they spending a lot. They're going to be giving y'all a lot of money if y'all choose to come here.
When I saw it, I said, man, that guy really enjoyed his job for a couple hours. And, man, phone call after, I felt so bad. But it's funny. But, I mean, it's not like what everybody doesn't know. You know, it makes sense. But it's funny because you're always caught. There's a camera everywhere. You're caught on a hot mic everywhere. And that was funny. I mean, I got to admit, that was a prime time moment. You just saw it go live, and everyone's like, yep, that guy enjoyed his job for a couple hours there. Nice knowing him.
I know, right? I had to watch it a couple times. I was like, did he just say what I think he said? What about you, Johnathan? You out there in Texas where the big money flow?
Bro, first of all, I don't see any of that big money. It'd be nuts, but I'm jealous of Ryan's view. Bro, Mike, that is like American, bro. Right for the 4th of July with the flag flying in the background. But anyways.
Oh, baby, let's go. Let's go.
I know, Ryan said he at the beach, baby.
So
we're out here on the edge of the continent, man. Yeah, out here doing our thing, you know. Holding on.
When I saw that video, the first thing that popped in my head was, well, there goes the God complex. The second thing had to be definitely, it was rumored, I guess it's rumored, and a lot of people saying it was a recruit that was recording, but he was recording also coming down the tunnel, and the staffer saw him because he looked at the camera supposedly. My question is, as a staffer, like, you know, how smart do you have to be to realize, like, really? Like, you know, this dude he's already been recording, and you're still going to open your mouth like that? But it goes to show you, man, nobody's invincible. Everybody's been paying everybody since probably the 40s, 50s, whatever it may have been. Let's not be naive, right? Everybody's being paid. Come on.
Yeah, that's true, but I'm just like, you just can't get caught. Like JJ said, man, it's a camera everywhere you go. It doesn't matter. You can be a red light camera, an ATM camera. It's a camera everywhere you go, man. Like, you can't be that crazy. So, like you said, he might have enjoyed that job for a couple of months, but he definitely can't be employed today.
Alabama hired him. We'll take care of everybody. Here's your $100,000.
I'll just keep your mouth shut this time. You know what I'm saying? On to the big news of the day, though, man. USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, leaving Oregon and Utah to hold down the Pac-12 by themselves, man. What's going on with that, man? I mean, start with you, Johnathan. What you think about that? I'm gonna say Ryan for last, since he is in that area, and
I'll hit cleanup on this one.
So I'm going to sum this up pretty simple from what I've seen. The Big Ten just signed a $1 billion media rights deal. So if that doesn't have something to do with it, I don't know what does, right? Yeah. It screams, you know what I mean, bringing the Los Angeles market into the Big Ten. So now you're truly coast to coast, Rutgers, all the way to LA. I mean, I can only imagine the travel on those midnight games would be insane for a Rutgers team. That has to be a living nightmare. But no, honestly, my take on that, man, is very simple. It comes down to money, logistics. I think we all kind of knew this was coming eventually to some extent. We just didn't know it was going to be a USC and UCLA possibly. The UCLA, maybe Ryan can help me out on this when he gets around to it. I don't understand the UCLA portion of it, and I just don't. But that's all I got.
I don't know, JJ. What you think about it, man? You over here on the East Coast. You in the ACC. Is that going to put pressure on some teams in the ACC to make a move?
I'll tell you what. From an ACC perspective, they better start making calls, because it's very simple at this point. The game's begun. Okay, so what you have is you had the SEC last summer make their move. Okay, you had the conversations about being 2 mega or 3 mega conferences. The conversation was out there. They grabbed Texas and Oklahoma. Okay, Texas and Oklahoma. It's all about the money. It's funny how these institutions, like, it was funny. Penn State put out recently, we're just so happy because they're just great researching universities. Nobody, right mind, cares about the academics. It's about the money. It's that simple. And when Oklahoma and Texas, they'll never win the SEC. They'll both have 5 or 6 losses every single year. But when you bring that kind of cash flow in, you're bringing that money in, it makes sense. The Big Ten immediately saw it as the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the Rose Bowl. It just makes sense. Now, again, when it comes to UCLA, I mean, I don't get it. They haven't done anything in years. And, they're on just. I don't know. I can understand USC because of the Lincoln Riley stuff, but just on the East Coast, if you talk to anybody, that's poetic justice for Lincoln Riley. He leaves the Big 12, he doesn't want to go to the SEC, goes to the Pac-12, thinks he's going to be the star-studded lineup. All of a sudden, he finds out in middle of November he's going to be in Michigan. Storms. This guy's going to be all bundled up. It's funny, but it makes sense from a money perspective. So.
That's right. All right, Ryan, you back clean up on him, man. Oregon and Utah left to hold down the Pac-12, man.
Well, Coach, I'd like to hear what you think first before we jump into what
okay.
Hey, initial thoughts?
Listen, man, it's about like what both of them said, man. It's about the money. Now, UCLA in name is known across the nation. Now, football, they haven't actually done anything, like JJ said, in who knows how long. But they carry that name. Plus, again, they got the Rose Bowl there. You know what I'm saying? And USC might have been like, look, if we come, we got to bring at least one of our counterparts with us. And might as well be UCLA so we can hold that rivalry. But, I mean, I think it's going towards, this is what I think. I think it's going towards the conferences kind of like the NFL, the American and the national. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where we going. I think it's going to be about 32 to 48 teams, 2 sides, and then they're going to play a playoff. Honestly, if I was the commissioner, we wouldn't even be having conference championships no more. We just go straight NFL on them.
And I completely agree with that. So a couple things out here. One, from a history perspective, it's tough to see, right? Because you saw this conference for 100 years, Pac-8. It's been doing its thing. It's Bill Walton likes to say the conference of champions. In the athletic sports outside of football and basketball, they have a lot of them. In the last 20 years, outside of Reggie Bush was last time they won a championship in football, and with the Trojans, and it was in Arizona won it in the 90s in basketball. You had the Kevin Love era for UCLA for a little bit. They went to, I think, 3 Final Fours. Outside of that, you've only had 1 Final Four appearance outside of Oregon. So Oregon has been one of these schools that's kind of trying to hold the fort. They've been the best program in the conference for the last decade in basically almost all sports. And so you have a situation where you're thinking, okay, literally last week, I'm thinking, okay, maybe get to see UCLA, in the regular season, get to see USC in the Pac-12 championship, line everything up, get to play the whole season out, see who wins, give yourself a good opportunity, win the Pac-12, put yourself in a conversation for the playoff. Now it's to the point where it's like, if you aren't even in the right league, you aren't even getting the playoff. And then to add to the fact that, like, you talk about why UCLA go, well, I think UCLA is a great school. It's always rated as one of the best public schools in the country. It's a phenomenal school. And USC is private, but it does its own thing. It's a great school as well. I mean, we're talking academics-wise. So, the Big Ten wants it. The Big Ten basically just went to Rodeo Drive and just went shopping. I mean, these 2 schools was like the transfer portal. They just hit the portal. They were like, we're out. This is looking better over here. We're getting the bag over here. The NIL is better over here. We're gone. And you talk about breaking 100 years of relationship in some of these cases. It's crazy. So out here for Oregon, though, the real question is, what the hell does Oregon do? I mean, as an Oregon fan, true, my whole family's from there. My grandparents, everybody out here. We're a very rural state. We don't have that much of a population. We're out here completely removed from the West Coast. I mean, they took the Sonics away from Seattle. I mean, bro, they had won a championship. I mean, they just took them. They put them in Oklahoma City. I was like, what? You want to compare Oklahoma City to Seattle? There's no question. Seattle's a great city. But anyway, my point is, I don't know if the Big Ten really wants Oregon. And everybody out here said immediately, Oregon and Washington, we'll just go next. We didn't really get an invite. We're kind of the dude on the outside of the party being like, yo, can I get in?
Oh, I got you.
Open the back door. Let me help a brother out a little bit. I don't know if they want us. I know they want the LA market. Why would you not? Second biggest market in the country. Huge, great schools on academics. Because the Big Ten brings it on the academic side. And they want that all above board. And you're talking about getting LA. I mean, bro, the LA, that's the best schools in our conference. They just took the best schools out of our conference. I mean, so I do think, though, the future, I agree with you on the 2-conference thing and basically having everybody have maybe it's a West-East sort of a situation or whatever, but everybody's trying to align up with who they going with to the party because, Oregon better put themselves in a position where they're in competition with Ohio State and Michigan rather than being in competition with Oregon State and Washington State.
That's true, man. I'm with you on that. Now, I can see Oregon because you said like Oregon and Washington both applied. I don't know. I guess it's on hold right now. I could see the Big Ten wanting Oregon for 2 because, like you said, Oregon's been holding down the Pac-12 for the last decade. Plus, you got that Nike money. Right. Like Oregon brings Nike with them. Washington, they don't bring anything with them. Like, why would you want Washington to come to your conference?
Well, Washington, you got a great media market. You got Seattle. Oh, Seattle's twice the size of Portland. So Portland's top 25 in the media market. Seattle's probably top 15. So then, not only that, though, you also bring University of Washington is a great school. I mean, we're talking like they tried to get us this year with academic prowess. They said, bro, we can't beat you on the field, but we beat you in the classroom. They went with that one this year. And it's right. They're a good academic school. So the Big Ten actually, on paper, would probably even want Washington more than Oregon. Washington has much better history college football-wise outside of the last 15, 20 years. But Washington is a very unique spot. I mean, we're talking about the greatest setting in college football. Everybody else got their opinion on it, but the one at Lake Washington is pretty nice. There's some good places in California. There's some great places in the South. And we're not talking just stadium. We're talking location. Seattle's got something. And so, again, Northwest out here, we might respect it more than everybody else in the country because it's out here. But it is something special out here. So if you can somehow get the Northwest, I was just on earlier on another show as well, Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. Shouts out to Mark. he said, something interesting. He said, bro, if you could get Notre Dame to go to the Big Ten, then if you added Oregon and Washington, you might want to add like Stanford, and then you could add like the Bay Area, basically get the whole Pacific Northwest and Notre Dame, which is obviously a coast-to-coast brand. That would be a huge deal, talking about the media market money. But I don't know if the Big Ten wants to slice their pie up anymore. I understand that we're trying to get an invite or whatever, but I don't know if they want to slice it up. They already chalked it up as $100 million each. I don't think they want to go down to 70.
Yeah. So Johnathan and JJ, what y'all think the next move is gonna be? Like Oregon and Washington already put their bid in. They on hold, but they already put their bid in for the Big Ten. You got Pitt, Clemson, Miami, Florida State. Like, are they gonna chill out with the ACC?
Phone calls. I'm sure phone calls are being made somewhere to some extent. I know a lot of ACC fans, especially fans involving West Virginia in particular, Coos, right? Coos is worried. Like, these guys are worried because they're thinking like, well, if you're the bottom half of college football right now, you may be left out back to the whole single A and double A world, right? We're talking about double A football, and you could be one of those teams left out in the dust, not even competing for a title. Your title's against now North Dakota State. And you're talking about a loss of a lot of money in that perspective. But Ryan, UCLA is AAU, correct? Because they're a public school. Are they AAU accredited?
Yeah, they're AAU.
I figured they were.
And they're rated historically. If you go back and look at the top schools in the country, top 10 public schools, they're in the top 3 every year. They're consistently number 1. I mean, so they are a behemoth. I mean, they can do whatever they want in Westwood with the Rose Bowl up in Pasadena. I mean, like you said, I mean, what happens to the Rose Bowl? Is the Rose Bowl even a part of this thing in the future? The Pac-12 didn't have anything to do with it? I mean, I tend to think it's going to be some sort of merge where you're going to have these schools, if they do go to the Big Ten and the Big Ten does add a couple more schools, the rest of the Pac-12 is going to go to the Mountain West.
So, JJ, what you thinking Pitt going to do? You think they're going to hold on to see what the ACC going to do, or are they going to be proactive? Y'all kind of up in Big Ten country.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, it's been kind of funny. I made some phone calls today within the Pitt athletic department to see what their thoughts were. And right now, okay, they just got a new commissioner. He's from Northwestern in the Big Ten. This has been a focal point since the minute he got here about 2 years ago, pushing football hardcore. If I had to guess, right now, the only way that the ACC survives is they get Notre Dame, okay, because they already have all their sports there to begin with. Now, they could get a payout. The payout's not, it's a lot, but Notre Dame will pay it, okay? If they want to go to the Big Ten, they'll pay it. But the biggest thing is ACC's in a position where, okay, if Clemson, FSU, and Miami book it to the SEC, the ACC is gone. Once one of those teams begin to fluctuate, it's gone. Now, the funny thing is, though, like for instance, Mike Farrell was reporting today, you saw Oregon and Washington make that bid to the Big Ten, but they said they're going to put on hold for right now because they're talking to Notre Dame. If I'm the ACC, okay, I'm still in dialogue with Notre Dame, but if you really want to push buttons, and if geographically this isn't a big deal, and that, you know what, we're just going to just take teams all the way across the country. If I'm the ACC, and I mean you're on the last limb, I'm calling Washington and Oregon. Why would you not call Washington and Oregon?
Yeah.
You want to play. You want to play. What? Let's start playing games. Academically wise, Pitt's number 1 in the Northeast. Public university wise, they're known for medical. They're the best in medical. It's the business department. I mean, the academic side's there. That's why the Big Ten always tried to push them. Penn State tried to block that a little bit because they're in Big Ten country. In a realm where, in my opinion, in a perfect world, Pitt should be in the Big Ten to begin with. They're in Big Ten country. They're not, they're not an ACC country or the SEC. They're in Big Ten country. It's that simple. The one thing that's really cool, though, is you see the Big Ten, okay, they grab USC and they grab UCLA. So like we talked about before, if you look at it from a perspective of geographic, the Big Ten's all over the country now. The SEC is just in the lower part of the country. So are they going to decide, what, let's try to grab, even though these teams may not want to have any shot to win the SEC, do we want to grab that media market because the ACC has the most viewership? It's all major cities. So it's just all going to come down to which way they're going to go. From what I've heard from Pitt, right now they're standing still to see, okay, one, they did say they're reaching out to other teams. They didn't say who. They've reached out to five different universities. From what I've been told is that 5 different universities they've reached out to, but Pitt has also made contacts between Big Ten and the SEC. Apparently the SEC is trying to grab more on the East Coast now, because now it's becoming a power grab. It's all about egos at this point.
Yep.
The fact that they grabbed UCLA, all of a sudden the SEC is all pissed off, saying, hey, how did they grab 2 teams from the LA market, grabbing more viewership than what the SEC has? And SEC, it's at this point, it's just trying to grow. So as a Pitt fan, I think right now, you know, at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, are they going to get jammed up? It's possible. But with the amount of rivalries they have in the Big Ten, and possibly a rivalry between, you know, the ACC, I mean, if a perfect world, they're probably going to the Big Ten if it's possible. But if the ACC can add Notre Dame and really make things interesting by adding Washington and Oregon and possibly Stanford, because the academics from across the country, you know, I think Oregon's in a good spot. I think they've got the Phil Knight money. For them, I'm not really concerned. I think they're in a hell of a spot, and they can really choose where they really want to go, because they have all that money with them. And you know, Phil Knight's making phone calls. So it's going to be interesting. It really is. It could be, and the way it looks right now, it looks like it's going to be a 2-conference race. But if the ACC wants to survive, they better start throwing some fastballs and start throwing some curves, because they got to grab some people now. You got to go out and you got to go to other conferences. You got to call the Oregons of the world, the Washingtons of the world. You got to call the Oklahoma States of the world. You want to start grabbing different markets, you got to start dipping into the Big 12. The Pac-12 and the Big 12 are in the biggest situations right now. They got everybody in those conferences are on the phone, because guess what? If they don't call somebody from either one of these 3 conferences, they're out. It's that simple.
Well,
you know.
That leads to the super conference thing that I was talking about.
But
this is the thing. I know we all, you know, it's good. Listen, college is for education, but let's not act like these moves aren't based on football. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the moves are based on football and money, you know, and like Johnathan had alluded to, a lot of these lower tier teams, like the bottom half of college football, I think at the end of the day, if they go to 2 super conferences, a lot of these teams are left out, like the Northwesterns, the Vanderbilts, the even Stafford. I mean, Stafford is good at a lot of sports other than football. It's like, you know, because they always in the running. They're always in the running for, like, you know, the Directors Cup and stuff. But football is the moneymaker. You know what I'm saying? So if we go to 2 super conferences, what schools can y'all see being left out? I mean, like, I don't think Washington State, Oregon State, like I said, Vandy, hell, Missouri might not even make it. You know,
Missouri won't.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you get some of these cut out. You look at the Dukes, and I mean, Duke is good in basketball and lacrosse, but I mean, outside of that, nobody wants their football program. You know what I'm saying? What you think about that, Johnson?
I think realistically, I think we need to be thinking more long-term than short-term as far as success now. We talk about Vandy and being left out, but what we're not talking about is the market that Vandy's in, the city they're in, right? So we got to start thinking about the cities and the locations, like Ryan alluded to earlier. Like, that's what it's going to come down to, because the bigger the city, the bigger the viewership, the more money is going to be made, the more leverage you're going to have. So, I mean, you got to start thinking about long-term relationships with teams in cities that are growing at this point, or they're already, you know what I mean, like peaked out. I think it's going to come down to stuff like that, man. Now, the super conference thing, I agreed to the article that I read on Trojan Wire, 32 teams each side. The bottom half left out. I definitely can see teams like West Virginia. They're the most winningest program without winning a national championship in football. But how much does that matter? But you know what I mean? What are they doing right now with Neil Brown? Nothing. Yeah. So, you know, they're left out.
It's not a market that you desire.
I mean, who is going to, you know what I mean? What are they going to sell? Come to West Virginia, be surrounded by the mountains and drink White Lightning. You know what I mean? That's essentially what your markets. That's what you're going to hear. You know what I mean? So now when you're talking about the SEC, my question is, well, what has Ole Miss and Mississippi State brought to the SEC? Because they're in the middle of nowhere in some of the smallest cities, and they provided almost nothing for that. If anything, they're riding wagon going, man, I'm glad I'm already in the SEC. Like, I'm Arkansas, same thing. I'm glad I joined after the Southwest. Like, you know what I mean? Like, teams like that. Missouri. Imagine Missouri and Texas A&M. if this was going on right now and they're still in the Big 12. Like, you know what I mean? There'd be a lot more scrambling going on. But Missouri, I think, is one of those, is still in a kind of a big market. You know what I mean? Like, it's still kind of there. You know,
it's about an hour and a half from St. Louis, but I can tell you, been there.
Nothing. Okay, so Missouri is pretty much scratched.
Now, St. Louis, like I said, it's an hour and a half away. But, yeah, like, so, Ryan, with the Pac-12, let's say it does happen, 2 super conferences. And like Johnathan said, you take into account market and, of course, football appeal. What about the Arizona and the Arizona States?
Boy, I mean, I think they're a perfect fit for the Big 12. You know, when you think about this, like, first of all, we're at 5 big conferences, right? If you add the CC to it,
hold on, Ryan. Shout out to
who they want to be a part of the situation, right? But my point is, like, if you just think about the 5 conferences, if you take the Pac-12 out, you got 4. If you were just to combine those 2 and put the ACC and the SEC together, put the Big 12 and the Big 10 and what's left of the Pac-10 together, you basically have that number, but you're going to have to take all the bottom end teams out of there. The problem I see with it is it's just talking about football and it's very recent. So, like, Texas, for example, Texas wouldn't even make the cut. They haven't even been good as of late in the last 5 years. This is a school that historically is one of the best of all time. So it's like you have to be careful about, like, putting these, conferences together based on recent football, percentages. So it's going to be interesting. I think Oregon's going to be in it. I think Oregon's going to be in the conversation, and I'm not too worried about that.
I think so. Teams like Kansas State. I've never been to the state of Kansas, but they don't bring anything football wise, and they also don't bring anything market wise. I don't think. Like I say, hold on, fellas. My mom and my son and my niece are watching the show. Shout out to them. All right, hey, we got Coos up in the house, man. We was talking about West Virginia. Let's get Coos up in here. So
I hope he heard me.
His take. What's going on, Coos? Tell the people.
Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Better enjoy your time in the Power 5, bro.
Hey, hush, man. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Tell the people where they can find you first, Coos, and we're going to let you jump in here.
Yeah, man. You can find me on Coos' Corner on YouTube. Name's up there in the bottom left of the screen. Do a lot of West Virginia stuff, obviously, but also touch on any major storyline across college football. Obviously, a lot of Big 12 related stuff as well. So you can find me on Twitter at Coos206. That's at COUZ206. And I am on Instagram and TikTok as well, but I don't use that very much. So Twitter is the best place to find me.
Well, we're going to get your thoughts on it, man. We were talking about 2 super conferences with the recent additions of USC, UCLA going to the Big Ten, Oregon and Washington putting their bid in, Big Ten talking to Notre Dame. If they go to two super conferences, some teams are getting cut out. Now, what we've discussed, I don't know how much you heard so far, but 2 things that can kind of get you in the door is either you bring something football-wise or you're in the big market.
Right.
Now, where do you feel like West Virginia falls in that? Because I don't know if West Virginia is a big enough market to hold their own,
I think it all depends, honestly, on how chaotic it gets and how big the conferences, those 2 super conferences get. If they go to, 18, 20 teams, I don't know that West Virginia gets invited. But if they go to 24 to 32 teams, then I think we do. I don't think there's 60 teams better than West Virginia out there as far as market or attractiveness, but there might be 40. You know what I mean? So
I got you.
That's where I stand on it. So am I nervous? Yes, but I'm also hopeful that this could turn out positive for West Virginia in some way, shape, or form, or even the Big 12. If the Big 12 can capitalize on this and go grab a couple of those Pac-12 teams, the Big 12 might solidify itself as the 3rd best conference in the country.
Okay, I can see that. There's some teams like Johnathan. I didn't even think about that until you said market. That might save Vanderbilt, but that won't do nothing for Duke, though.
No.
Because Durham, North Carolina, JJ's over here on the East Coast with me. Durham, North Carolina, it's a nice town, but it's not a big market.
I'll tell you what, honestly, if I had to bet for Duke, okay, they're horrendous in everything else besides basketball. How much do you want to bet that's a team that they go full blown into the Big East for basketball, and then they line up with their football program in the American?
Yeah,
that's because then in the Big East for basketball, they're able to compete every single day. They're still technically they can battle for a national championship. Basketball is a different world, but when it comes to football, man, I mean, Pitt won an ACC championship this year. I got to watch that game against Duke. I mean, I'm not really sure Duke football should be in a Power 5 to begin with, let alone. You know what? I mean, I don't know if they find these guys, in the Little Sisters of the Poor. I don't know where they find these guys at, but they're studying for engineering degrees or something, because they're not playing well,
Yeah,
but it's just those markets, it's tough.
So, Johnathan, being out there in Texas, never been, but of course, everybody knows about Houston, the cities, the markets of Houston, Dallas,
huge,
San Antonio. But like the teams like TCU, I don't know where exactly is TCU located.
No, Waco or not Waco?
Baylor's in Waco.
Baylor's in Waco. I always get these mixed up.
Texas Tech is in Lubbock. We know ain't nothing in Lubbock.
Yeah, Texas is obviously in Austin. Fort Worth. There we go.
Fort Worth. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that might save them as well.
I mean, the market, but you're also competing with SMU at that point, whatever you want to count SMU, because we got to remember SMU used to be dominant in college football. Like, you know what I mean? Until that whole, we know what happened, like dead period that pretty much annihilated them. But you got to take that into consideration. And I believe Ryan made a good point about Texas, man. Like Texas has been, since Vince Young, they have been horrible. But once again, you drive up into Austin, it's like it's an amazing place to be. It really is. Yeah. And I'm in San Antonio. So
and I don't think they're gonna let all that, like Texas got money. I just don't think they're gonna let all that go by. Even if Texas doesn't win another national championship, it's just the name and the brand is just too big for them to exclude. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
recently they were talking about how Texas, for instance, Texas has not had a first-round draft pick since Vince Young. I mean, just what exactly? I am shocked at just how bad Texas has just fallen apart with all the money down, all the money in the world, and again, it might have something to do with just firing coaches every 3 years, and like you look at Tom Herman, and people can say what he wants, but he had a winning record there, and they fired him.
That's true.
And then you have Sark come in, his first year there, whether what people want to believe or not, there's talent down there. It's the Big 12, and they go 5-7. I mean, the SEC, that's going to be a battle for them, man.
It is. What's going on, USCJ? We got our USCJ at work. Hey, man, you supposed to be working. But I appreciate the love, showing some love for us. What about like teams like Coos? This is in your area. What about Virginia and Virginia Tech? Let's say the ACC implodes. I mean, Blacksburg ain't a huge market. I mean, Virginia Tech, I like Virginia Tech, the atmosphere, but that's not a huge market.
Right. Virginia Tech is very, very similar to West Virginia. We're actually, I think one is 15th and one's 16th all time in wins. We have our markets are very similar as far as market size. Our fan bases are similar in size. A lot of similarities. Obviously, they recruit the same geographic area.
Yep.
I actually only live about an hour from Virginia Tech's campus, so I'm extremely familiar with it. But the rumors are that there, of course, there's all kinds of rumors flying around, but Virginia is actually on the radar of the Big Ten because of their, that they're an AAU accredited school. They have really high academic standards, and that matters to the Big Ten, whether we like to admit it or not. It does.
Yeah.
I've not heard a lot about Virginia. I think Virginia Tech's going to be one of those schools, kind of like a West Virginia. I don't know what could potentially happen to them. They're a great program. Frank Beamer put them on the map, but I don't know. I don't know where they end up at the end of the day.
Listen, man, I got a couple of schools. Listen, they just need to go ahead, go Group of 5 or Division 1A, whatever the next level gonna be if they go super conferences. Teams like, listen, Wake Forest did good last year, but let's be honest, man. Wake Forest, come on, bro. It's Winston-Salem. It's a nice town. But we're not really looking for Wake Forest to be a football power.
Yeah, Wake Forest. Their enrollment, they have the smallest enrollment in the Power 5.
Really?
Them in Miami. It's like them in Miami. Yeah,
Oh
but
my
they both
gosh.
they both private schools. Yeah.
I did not know that. I know
But
UCF has the largest enrollment, but I didn't know Wake Forest has
Yeah.
the smallest.
Yeah.
It's under 10,000, ain't it, JJ?
Yeah, because it was funny because when we were in the ACC championship game, they talked about I was at the game and then I came home and they were talking about just rolling on some facts, viewership, stuff like that, and then they talked about how the Wake Forest enrollment is the smallest in the Power 5. I was like, oh my Lord. I mean, it's small.
That's crazy, man. Well, what about teams like Colorado and Arizona,
they gone,
Arizona
dog.
State?
They're gone.
Gone, dog. Gone, dog. Look, Arizona State's only worried about one thing, and that's how much beer you can drink humanly possible in one night. We already know that. Arizona in football, when is the last time they've even been mentioned?
Bro, have they ever been good, though? That's the thing.
What year was it Rich Rod took them to the Pac-12 championship game?
Like 2009, 8?
Yeah.
Around that time frame?
He was
no.
He was in Michigan then.
Michigan then. So it would have been like 2011.
Yeah.
Right? 12
somewhere in that time frame. That's probably the last time they were really in the conversation. And they got waxed by Oregon, I believe.
Then you got your Syracuse's, Georgia Tech. We got another comment in here. Great Little said Vandy's grandfathered into the SEC as the bylaws. As long as Clemson, Miami, FSU are in the ACC, will always stand as a power conference. Super conference make the bowl games relevant again. I think Miami, Clemson, and FSU, if it all blows up and goes to super conferences, they come into the SEC. It makes sense. You see it all of that together. I mean, Clemson already plays Georgia. They used to play Georgia every year. Then they stopped for a while, and now it's like every other year. And then you got Florida State and Florida with the rival and Miami. So I think that just makes sense in that aspect. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of teams left out if they go to SuperCon. We ain't even talked about Iowa and Iowa State.
Yeah, and that's a real issue. Like, it's a real issue we could be looking at is if this really goes into 2 super conference. Because, all right, so JJ, you on this. All it would take would be like one team in the ACC, right, to fall apart. You believe at that point, if Miami and Florida State or Miami and even like, I don't know, we'll say Miami and NC State's like, hey, we're rolling to the SEC. Do you think that's all it would take for the ACC to start scrambling and it starts dissolving?
For it to dissolve, I think there'll be a little bit of panic because if NC State left, I don't think that's a huge deal. If Miami left, you start getting really a little bit concerned. The biggest concern of where this really falls apart and it goes to shit quick is if Clemson leaves. It's that simple.
If Clemson leave, it's over. If Clemson leave, ACC is done.
So yeah, it's just Clemson is that dog right now where they've been consistent for the last 6-7 years. They've won multiple national championships, competed against the SEC. That's the team that's really on watch right now, and that's why I think that the ACC better get aggressive. You got to start getting really aggressive with Notre Dame. Maybe working a really friendly, good deal with them. Hey, keep NBC with you. Take the revenue from there, and then we'll still split with you the revenue that we get from the ACC. That's a way to try to bring them in. Their sports are already there. All their sports are there. And they got to go and do another conference and bring some other teams in. If they're smart, they try dipping in again, going across the country. Again with the Pac-12 falling apart, they're calling everybody. Mike Farrell just reported 5 minutes ago that the ACC has, and it was funny. I was just told about this earlier today. Mike Farrell just reported that the ACC has contacted Washington and Oregon. So geographically, everything's out. So everyone's trying to stay afloat. And it's going to be the SEC and the Big Ten. We know 110%. Those are the 2 dogs right now. The ACC is fighting on for dear life. And right now, what it looks like is the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are just trying to stay afloat at this point. And it's funny because you got, look at Cincinnati. They were in a group of 5 for how many years? They're going into the Big 12. That was a big addition for them. But then you look at, so you lost Oklahoma and Texas. You were just formulating that. You were just bringing some teams in, keeping it competitive, the UCFs of the world. And all of a sudden you have this happen. Does the SEC try going into the Big 12 and saying, well, if we're going to counteract 2 major markets, are we going to try to go into the Big 12 and the SEC and the ACC to try to bring in more viewership? That's going to be the big question, and that's the most viewership is the ACC because of the major cities. You look at all the major cities that are in the ACC. That's what's really debating right now. And if the SEC grabs Clemson, you can dust your hands. everybody in the SEC better run, and they better find out where they're going, because if they're gone, it's over.
So we got a question from John Moore. Thanks for the question, John. What group of 5 teams should Power 5 conference look at now? He's thinking Boise State and San Diego State. What we're talking about right now, if they go to the 2 super conferences, I can tell you, I don't think no group of 5 team is going to get into the super conference. I think what they'll have to do is develop a different league, and then those group of 5 can now join all the Virginias and Virginia Techs and, the Iowa States and the Dukes and make their own league. I don't know, it'll be called Division 1A or whatever it's going to be called. But that's where I think that's going. Now, with the TV money.
Oh, God.
Bro, so how long, Ryan's back in with us, with the TV money, how much longer, does anybody know how much longer NBC and Notre Dame's contract is?
NBC and Notre Dame?
Yeah,
it's for a long time, isn't it? Hang on, I can look it up.
I think it's 2025, actually.
Really?
That's what I read. And it's only $15,000, $15 million a year.
2025.
Okay, so 2025, and then
15 mil.
USC, UCLA joined the Big Ten in 2024. Oklahoma, Texas, as of now, 2025. So I guess right around that time, and you talking about losing money. What happens to all these sports programs that don't make the cut if they go to super conferences? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to have the big TV money anymore. Like, if a Louisville doesn't make the cut.
Oh, they making it with Adidas.
You say they're going to make it because they got Adidas.
They got Adidas.
So, okay. So you say, so what about like the Boston colleges and Virginias and who else I got up here? What about Baylor? Baylor's in Waco. What's in Waco? I don't know.
Dude, there ain't nothing in Waco. I've been to Waco. There ain't nothing in Waco.
So they losing. Will they be able to sustain, their athletics as they are today and not lose some sports?
No.
Because, as we all know, football pays for a lot of the non-scholarship sports too. So,
well, I mean, just real quick on Baylor. Baylor's got a good basketball program and a good football program in the last 5-10 years. They've been doing really well in both those. So it's like, again, if you just look at recency, they have the right to be there maybe. But, if you look at where they're at with what kind of media market Waco brings, they're probably not.
I think they're in a similar boat to Oklahoma State.
Right. I mean, how many teams do you want next to each other? Right? Like, just in Texas alone, I know Texas is a big state, but I'm here in San Antonio. UTSA obviously just paid Jeff Traylor $42 million here in San Antonio. So, and then obviously you got SMU, you got all these guys in one bucket essentially in Dallas, and then you got Waco, you got Lubbock. I mean, and then even if you think about it, Oklahoma State is right up the road. Norman is right up the road. All these teams are in like one. It's like the SEC in the Southeast. Like, we're all within driving distance of each other essentially. But I think it completely kills the unfunded sports. Obviously, when you talk about Stanford, the sailing program and stuff like that, fencing and all that, that's all terminated. Like, right. Yeah. So, I mean, all that's gone. Like, they were even talking about baseball teams being stripped already.
Yeah. So I was just about to say, I think baseball is going in some schools that don't, if they go to some super conferences, the teams that don't make it in, you don't have the TV money. I mean, you still be on TV, but you won't have the TV money that you used to getting. You know what I'm saying? You won't get the bowl money that you used to getting, because we all know that the conferences get bowl money and then split it up, even if like Vandy gets bowl money. So Vandy's happy to play their part in the SEC. Nashville is helping them out. Because Nashville is a thriving city. It is actually the most visited city for brides to be. I did not know that until I went to the.
So another thing to consider is we have to realize too that SB 1401 is going through California right now. If you guys know what SB 1401 is, right?
Let everybody know, Johnathan.
So SB 1401 is a bill they're passing through California right now, stating that all of college football, men's basketball, and women's basketball will go directly to those players. Half of it, 50% of all revenue, will be directly sent to the players. Has nothing to do with NIL. So, that's not going to stay in California. Otherwise, California has a huge leg up on every recruiting aspect in college football. So clearly that would spread when it passes, if it passes, everywhere. So that's another thing that kills a lot of these unfunded to lower funded sports on top of this. So we got to consider that.
It's getting wilder. I think 2022 is definitely the last season we'll see college football at its current state. I think in 2022. I mean, NIL is already getting crazy. We got 4-star recruits getting paid $8 million over there 4-year time.
9.5.
Is that what
Rumored,
the old boy?
Rumored, yeah.
Jaden
Rashada.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, dude ain't even like top 32 in his class.
The dude has not played a down in college football. How is that kid making more than the majority of the rookie class in the NFL? How does that make?
Yeah.
Why Primetime talked about it on his podcast. These guys. You look at it investment wise, they haven't played a down of football yet. Okay, and even if they did play a down of football, there's no way that these guys are worth that much money. Like it's just like, for instance, when Jordan Addison left Pitt, Pitt $2 million, USC came in at $3.5 million. He goes out to USC. Primetime even says, how does Jordan Addison making more money than George Pickens with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Yep. How does that make it? It's just, I think what's going to happen with the NIL is that eventually the market can't sustain itself like that. They can't do it. Because eventually what's going to happen is look at Quinn Ewers. He goes to Ohio State, takes $2 million, doesn't play a down of football, and goes over to Texas. Eventually these donors are going to say, hey, we're losing a lot of money. We're not getting wins. Eventually the bubble's going to pop.
That's what I was thinking the whole time when I see like the guy from Nico, the one that's going to Tennessee. I'm like, I know some of these donors big money or got money just to blow, but at some point you got to get an ROI. We got to get a return on investment, and all these guys are not going to be that good. Plus, I'm for the kids getting paid. I am, but NIL started as it's called name, image, and likeness. These high schools hadn't even the schools ain't even sold no jersey with their likeness on it yet. It's like
yeah, Lambos though.
I mean, for real, like it all came about because we had the NCAA football games that had the likeness of the players.
Yep.
A couple of basketball players said they was going hungry at night. I don't know how that is when people on regular food plans. I went to college. I wasn't an athlete. I was on a regular meal plan. I never went hungry. So I mean, all of that is like irrelevant. But I'm like, now it's getting to the point. But how do you bottle it up? That's where I want to go. How do you bottle it up now that people? How do you tell the next guy he can't get 9 million coups? How you tell him that?
You don't. I'm with, like JJ said, man. It's going to have to correct itself because when these guys go out and get this money, Spencer Rattler's another example. Big NIL deal. He didn't perform up to standards. Then he transfers out. These companies and these boosters are going to realize, man, this is a huge waste of my money. I'm going to give this money to a guy who's in the program, who's producing. So I'm going to wait till this guy's on campus which is what it's supposed to be anyway.
Yes,
that's the whole point of NIL.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, name, image, likeness is not supposed to be pay for play, but that's what it's turned into.
And if it's pay for play, shouldn't you? If you don't produce, you lose your money. Ain't that how everybody else to get paid for play is?
I mean, make a contract. I'm sure there's contracts already enforced, but I got a serious question for all you guys. I think this may touch some feelings a little bit. I think we can kind of agree that this just didn't start with the players. This kind of came from the coaching aspect. When you look at Dabo Swinney saying players shouldn't be paid, but you're sitting on $9 million a year. You know what I mean? Like, and the players are looking at that and watching that. Yeah. This was bound to happen, right? Like, I think that's initially where this started.
100%. Yeah. And I totally agree with, again, the players should be played. They should be paid. Okay. I think, but just like what I think the group agrees, it shouldn't be paid for play. When you're in there, like for instance, Kenny Pickett, I mean, he was a Heisman finalist at Pitt, but he made $750,000 from businesses just in the Pitt area. So Pittsburgh has 50 of the top 500 Fortune 500 companies. That's where he's making money. There you go. He had cars, restaurants. He brought his linemen to certain restaurants because he made so much money from it. That's what that NIL was for. Yeah, when Dabo Swinney says guys shouldn't be getting paid, that's just the boomer in it. You know what I mean? You just can't. You can't tell a kid who, one of the things, and I played in college sports where you couldn't go get a free meal from a booster, or you couldn't get a T-shirt signed. That stuff was ridiculous. These guys work their tails off. They go to school. The majority of the time they're watching film. And I think a lot of fans don't understand this. When you look at the players' schedule, people don't even realize the actual game week and the actual season. Go into August. They're up at 4:30 in the morning, and they're not finished till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night after team meetings. This isn't just for fun. This is a job. This is a full-time job. So
for real.
If they're performing well, they need to be paid. They deserve to get that money. And whether they have jersey sales, Pitt have started their own jersey sales for their players. These guys deserve to make the money that they deserve to make. But now, when you're offering high school kids who haven't done a single thing, $8-9 million, that's ridiculous. But these guys who are on the team performing, they should be paid, and they have every right to get paid.
Ryan, how do you bottle up the NIL, man? We got rising seniors signing deals for $9.5 million, dog.
It's unreal, man. I'm a high school teacher. I couldn't imagine some kid signing some deal for $1 million. Being a junior in high school hasn't even played his senior year of high school. Man, sorry for the technical difficulties out here. I'm on the edge of the continent.
Hey, you all right, man? We understand you near that water, man, and mess with that cell service, man. But
No, I got internet. I got everything else. I'm blaming it on my phone. But, I think the NIL is, again, survival of the fittest, right? So you've got these schools that are willing to put it out there and do it, and other schools that are not. And some schools, that makes the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And I think Oregon's in a unique spot because of NIL. We're not scared of it. They've tried to lean into it. And even some of the stuff that Oregon's done, they've now pushed back against with the NCAA or whatever else. So, I think it's a very fluid situation. By the way, what up, Coos?
What's up, Ryan? How are you, man?
Doing, bro?
Good to see you.
So how long you think it'll take for these big donors, these big money guys to watch their investments pretty much go down the drain? Because, listen, man, we all know it doesn't matter if you're a 4-star or 5-star. All of them don't pan out. And we already seen, like y'all said, Spencer Rattler was a good case. DJ Uyunglele.
Oh, yeah, with Dr. Pepper.
Pepper.
He signed the first big one, actually. He was the first one to go over $1 million.
I think the only one that really earned his keep was, like you say, Jordan Addison and Bryce Young.
But Bryce Young, to be fair, signed his after a successful, I would say, 3/4 of a season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I think those are the kind of stipulations you have to put on. I don't think you'll be able to put a money limit on it. I think you'll be able to say, hey, you got to play so many downs. I don't know, but it's not supposed to be pay for play, so it's going to be hard to implement those type of strategies. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm a big donor, listen, I don't care if I didn't put in all the money, if I put in half the money. If you don't give me what I need on the field, I need some of that money back.
Yep. Well, I tell you, I like
ROI. You want that return on investment.
Yeah.
That's right.
What West Virginia's doing with their collective is they're making the guys run camps for kids.
Okay.
Any guy who's part of the collective has to do camps. They go on podcasts. They have to do things to earn the money, basically.
Yeah.
And when they do a camp, they wear a T-shirt with a sponsor's name on it.
Gotcha.
The whole time. I mean, it just they go on a podcast that's sponsored by one of the businesses that are funding the collective. I mean, there's just and I think that's what now some of the guys, in fairness, haven't played yet, like Nico Marchio, for example, the freshman quarterback we have, but he is at least on the team. You know what I'm saying? He's on the roster. He's not a high school senior.
That's what I'm saying. These guys, man, boy, Jaden, he didn't even started. Let me tell you, he started fall camp yet in high school.
Well, Michael Caspin, he just completely unraveled the entire thing. Well, you guys know what he came out and said about the Gator Collective. This guy's an NIL lawyer out of California saying these guys are dysfunctional and somebody needs to look into, and then openly said that I'm not sending any of my clients to Florida, to let them get recruited there. And this guy holds some of the biggest names in the 2023 and 2024 class.
He does. So, Florida tried to come back and say they're just trying to take their time and do it the right way or whatever. But he was like, if you like Florida, not for nothing, man. I know Florida hasn't been good, but Florida is a big brand in college football.
Yeah.
You telling me they shouldn't be able to get their collective together and get some of these guys? That's crazy. As we know, I don't know if y'all follow. I know me and Johnathan talked about it, man. The Florida fans are in, I don't know, man. They all over in turmoil. It don't matter. Anything comes, they ready for Billy Napier to get fired already. Already. And I'm like, bro, like, listen. And then when you couple that with what the guy said, came out and said the Gator Collective doesn't have it together, it's like, is it Billy Napier that needs to go, though? It's like, if this is true, shouldn't it be like whoever's in charge of all that, Scott Strickland, the AD?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Billy Napier just there trying to coach football, man, which he hasn't had a chance to do.
Yeah, he coached a spring game, and these people are already saying it's time to go. Like, that would be the shortest employment in history, I think.
I saw one fan on a message board say they need to Brian Harsin him.
Yeah, that's
listen. They was at it. They was at it this morning because listen. Check this out. Now they were at it this morning talking about this further shows he needs to go because a lineman out of Florida, a defensive lineman out of Florida, is crystal ball to Oklahoma.
So he needs to go. So he needs to go.
Like, bro, listen, if y'all haven't watched Nick Saban and Kirby Smart do this thing, it don't matter until they put pen to paper. Like, they can get flipped all the way up until the 12th hour, 13th hour, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, listen, again, I told Johnathan, as a Georgia fan, I'm loving to watch it because it couldn't happen to a better group of guys. But, like, hey, man, get a guy a chance to coach at least one game in the 2022 season before everything break, all hell break loose in college football. So, but go ahead, Johnathan.
And Miami's doing the opposite. They picked up another big recruit today. Like, Miami's on a roll with Mario Cristobal. So, which is further pissing off the Florida fans.
It is. And then Florida is watching everybody else use NIL to their benefit. And meanwhile, their collective can't get it together, so to say. You know, Notre Dame's killing in the recruiting. Johnathan can touch on that, too.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame's killing in the recruiting. I mean, not for nothing now. Don't forget, Kirby Smart is one of the kings of recruiting. He just signed A.J. Harris, the cornerback. Now he got, not signed, but committed. And then we got Daniel Harris, he's out of the state of Florida as well. So that didn't help with the Gator fans. Like, the dude just committed to the Dogs. I'm like, this is crazy.
Florida's been down a long time since, you know what I mean? I mean, realistically, since Steve Spurrier left, and I know people are going to say Urban Meyer, what Urban Meyer left, we kind of all know now, kind of what went down there with Tim Tebow. And, well, we know the prison mates, essentially. I don't want to phrase it that way, but it is what it is. Urban Meyer didn't leave Florida for no reason. You know, a lot of people can attest that they thought he was leaving Florida kind of the same way to avoid what happened with Pete Carroll leaving SC. Like, we don't want to see that go down that way. So I guess I'll retract back to Urban Meyer days because they did win a national championship with Tim Tebow, obviously. But when you're down that long, and you're not just down, but you're down with sanctions, you're down with constantly being hounded upon by Scott Strickland now. And look, Scott Strickland, I already said it, the dude needs to go. You know what I mean? It starts at the top. You can't always blame the coach, right?
That's the thing. You can't keep firing coaches. They have an unrealistic expectation. We got a Duck fan in here. What's going on, Jason Stanfield? He said he really wants the SEC as a Duck fan. The iron sharpens iron. Oh, okay. He don't know if it's possible. Anything's possible in today's college world, Jason. He said he heard that the SEC is talking to Miami, Florida State, and Clemson. I mean, that's what we said, earlier in the show. That it only makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It only makes sense for them to come in and says have an Alabama alumni talking. So listen, Oregon's got, I think they're going to jump in somewhere. I think the Pac-12 is going to be done here before long. I think it is going to end up being the SEC and the Big Ten. The question is how many teams are going to be involved. If they do it like the NFL, it could be 32. But if they go, they could do 64. It just depends. I mean, like I say, as I was thinking more like if it was me, if I was like the commissioner of college football, I would do 32 teams. I do it just like the NFL. We do 32 teams, 4 divisions on each side, playoffs, no conference championships.
Yeah, we're not even like mentioning another obvious elephant in the room, and the NCAA has no governing power anymore. They're gone. Like,
what are
they're
they
useless.
Just to make sure you're eligible?
Yeah, like basically to make sure you attend class.
But now you're eligible. Everybody's eligible. That's the thing.
That's the next thing that's going to happen here, and eventually, and with the moves being made, you're going to see in the next year. I would think, honestly, people think like 2 or 3. I'm thinking the next year or 2, you're going to see these conferences leave the NCAA. They are the most useless organization from top to have provided nothing but hell to these institutions, have done nothing to even help remotely on any certain issue. If anything, just make it worse. So in reality, I mean, in a perfect world, you would have thought that, they keep the Power 5 together and then the Power 5 just leaves. But now you have the mega conferences coming together. There's just no need for the NCAA. And, these organizations now, these universities, it's funny we talk about Florida. It's a lot like the National Football League. And I always say the greatest organizations are built from the top down. So you have the NFL, the owner, the GM, the scouting department, and then you have the head coach. At a university, you need to have the president, the chancellor, the commitment to football and athletics in general, your AD completely backing the coaches, and then you actually have the coach. If you don't have those 3 things, and along with continuity, football is a different world. It's not like college basketball. You need to be giving that coach 4, possibly 5 years to prove themselves. Look at Texas. They get a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. They're not liking what they see. They toss them. Well, people have to understand it, especially fans. If you fire that guy after 3 years, you bring somebody else in, and they have a completely different culture, you're starting from ground zero again. So you're going to start the whole process over again. You have to be patient with these guys. Build the continuity. Alabama is the perfect example. You got a guy that comes in, Nick Saban from the NFL. Okay, you guys know they stuck with him no matter what. The first year he had a little bit of a couple struggles. That's it. I mean, he talks about it and says, hey, I didn't think we were going to be able to do it here. But they stick with him, and look at it. He's built the best and the ultimate dynasty. He's the best coach that will ever go through Alabama. He's built the collective. He's built the alumni. He's built the fan base. He is known. He'll go down as the greatest college football coach ever. You have to be patient. And in some of these schools just don't understand that.
We lost
Go ahead, Justin.
We lost to Louisiana Monroe. We lost to, actually, technically, they were still Northeast Louisiana his first season. So, yeah.
So jumping back to Oregon and Washington trying to get into the Big Ten, ACC reaching out to Oregon and Washington. Jason's a Duck fan. He said Oregon is trying to pass a legislation to make Oregon take Oregon State, and the same for Washington and Washington State, I'm assuming, which is garbage. He says we don't want little brother, trust us. Listen,
nope.
Listen. I think I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but I definitely know that there a lot of states out here. You have to hold on to those rivalries. Here in South Carolina, it is like I don't know if it's actually state legislation, but it's really like important that Clemson and South Carolina play each other every single year. Like it was a big to do in 2020 during the COVID year when they didn't get to play. Like it was some heads about to roll around here. So, I don't know if Auburn and Alabama don't have to worry about it because they're going to be included anyway. Yeah. I don't think Georgia really cares if they play Georgia Tech. It's tradition. Let's just say that.
Collins is gone, by the way.
Hey, I got a question for JJ. JJ, you're a Pitt guy, right?
Yes, sir.
What if with all this conference realignment crap, if our 2 schools would happen to get left out of the super conferences, would you rather Pitt be like a top echelon team in the tier the lower level conference, the tier 2 conference, if you want to call it that, or would you rather Pitt be part of the power conference but yet be a mediocre middle of the road team every year?
Oh, money. Yeah, you got to be lower mediocre, middle of the road. Because it's all about the dough. Money. You got to pay for your other scholastic sports. So like right now, like Pitt's Olympic sports are like through the roof now. Heather, like when she came in 4 years ago, talked about building the program from the bottom up. Mm-hmm. Pitt through the 90s and the early 2000s, Pitt was bad at football. They had obviously basketball. They were known being ranked number 1 in the country through the Big East. Okay. But when you looked at them from a perspective, everything else looked like garbage. Then all of a sudden, Dave Wannstedt comes in and has 3 straight years where they're in the top 15, top 10. They're working in there. And then you look at, again, another AD, Steve Peterson, who's not there anymore, fires Dave Wannstedt after winning 9 games that year. and then you see the flush all the way till 2017, 2018 when Pitt finally gets back into it. I think if you have that, you got to be in the power in the conferences where even though you may be struggling. Look at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a team that looks horrendous from top to bottom, but guess what? They're getting paid. Vanderbilt's a baseball school. Look at Vanderbilt.
Exactly.
Their baseball team is phenomenal. Just baseball making.
But fans don't care about that stuff.
It's still money.
So I think like when you talk about the school itself, like JJ said, I think you got to look at the money. When you're talking about as a fan, I think as fans after a while, initially, I think it'll be double-edged though. To be honest with you, Coos, I think fans will get tired of being mediocre, but also like fans like me, if I was a Pitt fan or West Virginia fan or whatever, I'd be glad that we have a schedule that includes the Ohio States, the Michigan,
exactly.
Because I'm a Georgia alum, but I'm a college football fan, so I like those kind of matchups. Like when they said USC was joining the Big Ten, I'm like, you mean to tell me on a regular basis I get the Trojans versus Penn State versus Ohio State versus Wisconsin? Like as a football fan, I like that kind of thing, but. Also, like you said, because like I don't know if I want to be middle of the road all the time. Everybody wants to win, man. At some point, and everybody wants to win, but it all comes down to the green. The green, man.
I agree, and I think the problem is, because I've tried to wrap my mind around that concept. My gut instinct is to say, hey, yeah, I want to be in the Power Conference, and then I think, well, wait a minute. Realistically, to step back and take off my blue and gold glasses for a minute.
Yeah.
How competitive would West Virginia be, say if we go in the SEC? Right. Obviously, off the bat, we wouldn't be competitive. Now, that doesn't mean we couldn't be down the road, though, once we start getting SEC money and SEC recruiting.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep in mind. But then at the same time, I think, but if we were in the lower tier conference, we might be one of the top schools in it every year, 9-10 wins a year, right?
Yeah.
That would be fun. But now the problem is we're already in the Power Five. Yeah. So to not be in it anymore would be like a gut punch.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
And I got to say this, too, because when you look at it, I get so many direct messages from the average college football fan. Obviously, this conference realignment altogether for fans across the country is horrendous. You're going to leave off so many different schools. It's not going to help them. Yep. But, when you look at, like a school like West Virginia, you're going to have a passionate fan base wherever you go. Whether if you're in the Power Five or even if you go into the Group of Five with the American Conference, the Mountain West, whatever, West Virginia fans are still going to support the team regardless. I think that's one of the things that West Virginia has going for them regardless. You're always going to have that strong, great fan base. Morgantown's going to be bumping regardless. But when it comes to the actual financial aspect of it, you got to get in the game because then everything else suffers around you. Then all of a sudden you have alumni not donating as much money anymore. If I was a school and I got left out and I got put into the American Conference, my pitch would be to the alumni. Well, okay, we're not in the Power Five. We're not in the Power Two right now. But if we go into this conference and dominate and get as much money as possible, we'll prove to those two conferences we deserve to go. And in the next realignment, you're in. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff. It's just those athletic departments, they got a lot to think about. But right now, you got to be humping to get into one of those two conferences. Or if the ACC survives with Notre Dame and other teams come into the ACC to create their own conference, then that's fine. But if it's in the two conferences, you got to find a way to get in there. You got to get in.
Yeah. And if you don't get into two conferences, you got to start putting all your money into basketball and baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, basketball for real, because a lot of the schools that might get left out in this scenario I feel like their conference or their division or whatever we're calling it would be better basketball than the Super Two.
Yeah.
That's Big East. Look at the Big East. If you put Duke, UNC. I mean, you have Seton Hall. It's in there. You have Georgetown. I mean, you're looking to compete, and it's just I think that's what's going to happen to a lot of the schools on the East Coast. I think Virginia would definitely go to the Big Ten because of their academics. Pitt has the academics, but I think that's what's going to save Virginia because Virginia's obviously not doing well in football. They have a good basketball program. The Big Ten's really, I mean, they got some good basketball teams in there. The ACC has been known for basketball obviously more than football. But I think that's what we'll say Virginia. But you look at these other teams, they're going to get left out. At the end of the day, it comes down to the markets.
I saw two reports on Twitter in the last I don't know, 12 to 24, 18 to 24 hours.
Yeah.
That Kansas was in talks to go independent in football and join the Big East in basketball.
That'd be good for them.
That wouldn't be a bad move. That wouldn't be a bad move.
Well, I thought so too at first, but then I've spent a lot of time today researching this from the financial perspective. Yes, Kansas sucks in football. They're the bottom of the Big 12. They might be the bottom of the Power 5 for that matter. But they're still bringing home that $42 million check that the Big 12 pays them every year, right?
Sure.
For this past year. If they go to the Big East in basketball, that payment goes down to about $5. Well, right now it's about $4 million a year. If Kansas joined, it would go way up, obviously. But it's not going to come anywhere close to $42 million.
Could you see a scenario where if those teams we have already discussed go to a different conference division, now they can try to strike a TV deal for basketball season though?
Yeah.
Because when you start talking about nobody's watching the Super 2 for basketball. If that's where it goes. Like nobody's watching that. I mean, Kentucky will have to, if Kentucky make it, which I think they would, but they'd have to hold it down for like everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like literally everybody. I mean, UCLA could get in there if they're in it. So UCLA and Kentucky, the two blue bloods will hold it down. But then you talk about, like, that's what I would look at money wise. I'm like, now I'm pitching the ESPN, Fox, or whoever. I'm like, look at all this good basketball. Let's not act like the March Madness ain't the most watched TV, spectacle over time in all the sports. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I think they can make up some of that money. Now, it's still not football money, like you say, Kuz, but they could recoup some of that money. But traveling back and forth, you're right. If you losing $42 million a year down to single digits, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, but I sent a tweet to a Kansas media person and asked him if there was any legitimacy to that, and he said no. So, and then I've also seen tweets that Kansas is in talks with the Big Ten.
Everybody's saying everything, bro.
So I mean, it's like I'm hearing. I mean, it's like you hear one report from what's supposed to be a legitimate source, right? Yeah. And then an hour later, you hear another report from another legitimate source saying the opposite. So it's like. Hey. Who knows what? I think us YouTubers are as friggin' reliable as the media people.
Hey, we got to treat it like recruiting, man. Until the pen to the paper and the sign, anything's possible. I mean, we thought the SEC blew everything up last summer with Oklahoma and Texas.
That's where it started.
That's where it started. We heard a whole bunch of, he said, she said, and then they announced it on ESPN. Of course, we sports watchers know once they announce it, then it's done. But anything can happen at this point in time. That's what I say. So, y'all got anything else, man? I can hold y'all all night talking football, man. Johnathan know me and him can go all night long. So, y'all got anything else before we jump off of here?
I'm good.
I got one thing for Kuz.
Yeah.
I think you guys need to go into the second conference so you guys can keep burning couches. Keep people in business in Morgantown.
Well, you know what? They've now outlawed it. That doesn't mean the law
really?
Be broken, but yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Was it like a ticket or you get arrested?
You can actually get arrested. They're trying to clean up. They're trying to clean up our reputation. So one of the things they did was outlaw couch burning.
Hey, they trying to do that because they saw all this coming. They like, listen, nobody wants the team.
I've heard people tell me. I actually had a guy put a comment under one of my videos about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And keep in mind, I don't know this guy from Adam. He just watched my video and decided to comment. But he said that he heard from a former chancellor or a former board member of LSU that when all the conference realignment was going down, a decade ago, and West Virginia was looking to try to get in the SEC, that we were actually top of their list to get in. LSU came to Morgantown for a game. He said SEC executives were at the game. We had a bunch of fans that apparently acted really bad, and to some of the LSU people, I don't know what happened. I was at the game. I didn't see it happen, but reportedly it did. And he says that after that, the SEC ruled us out because of our fan behavior. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. And JJ can probably tell you, we've had some negativity over the years because of our fans, but they've done a lot of things to try to clean that up. And our fan behavior has improved tremendously. But that's a stigma that we always hold. And so I don't know how true it is. But
I'm not saying it's true, but I could definitely see it because people got to do what they got to do in this day and age to make their moves to get to. Listen, JJ hit it on the head, man. It's like even if you don't think you can win, you're trying to keep that money. That money is real out here.
Yeah,
Johnathan, I think Johnathan mentioned that $1 billion TV deal that the Big Ten got. You know, the SEC raking in money. You got to get a part of that cheese, man.
At the end of the day, the question should always begin. If you're looking for an answer, the easiest way to get the answer, follow the money.
Follow the money. It's all,
follow the money. Follow the money. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on, man. Hey, everybody out there, before I get off, I'm going to let everybody tell again where they can find. But don't forget to get on Jonathan's channel tomorrow for his live stream at what time, Johnathan?
7 p.m. Central.
All right. Tell everybody where they can find you, Johnathan, and then JJ, and then Kuz.
College football with Johnathan Lewis on YouTube, at College FB Lewis on Twitter. Live stream tomorrow talking college football, talking recruiting, realignment, obviously, and, well, Texas A&M staffers. You know, we always want to include that in there as an Alabama fan. But, yeah, we're going to be digging into some other things as well that's not being talked about as much. I think it's pretty relevant. But either way, yep, that's it.
JJ.
Yes, you can find me on my personal account at JJ_Kitchen40. Again, I do a little bit of work for FQ Pitt. And just want to thank you guys again for everything. Coach, it's always good coming on here. I know the Pitt fans love it. The viewership's going to go up for sure because they love having the conversations. Johnathan, I'll definitely be tuning into your show. I love your show a lot.
I appreciate it.
A lot of great content. And Kuz, man, great to meet you. It's always
Yes,
good
sir.
to bring in West Virginia, and can't wait for the game September 1st. It's going to be fun.
I can't wait, man.
It's always fun to just bring the knowledge. And I think the biggest thing is what Pitt fans have just been showing in my DMs is just the knowledge you're able to bring and just answer the questions. And this is really good. So again, just thank you for having me on and just, again, talking ball.
I do have one question for JJ real quick. You guys play Tennessee, right, at Heinz Field this year?
Yes, sir.
Somebody mentioned in one of my videos, I just had to throw it out there since you're a Pitt fan, they should name that game the Condiment Bowl since Tennessee likes throwing mustard. And it's at Heinz Field. I was like, that was genius.
That was good. That's pretty good.
I think it was actually Talkie's Pitt, who's another Pitt YouTuber.
Yeah.
Okay, it may have been him. Yeah.
He and I talk a lot of trash to each other on Twitter, but
I just saw it on my messages.
Tell them where they can find you, Kuz.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube at Kuz's Corner, spelled just like it shows on the screen there. You can find me on Twitter at Kuz206. That's my personal Twitter account, also my YouTube account. Just basically do a lot of West Virginia stuff, a lot of Big 12 stuff, any major storylines that hit, I try to cover it. That's about it. Come check me out. And it's great to meet you, JJ. Coach, I appreciate you having me on.
Same thing.
And Johnathan, I always enjoy working with you, brother. And thanks to Ryan as well, who I know he wasn't able to stay with us, but
yeah,
I always enjoy Ryan's content as well.
He's on the beach drinking.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Ryan, I know Ryan's on the beach, but Ryan's an Oregon Duck, man. He has all the inside, outside, whatever you need for Oregon sports, Pac-12 sports. And I just guess coming up tomorrow on the Fan Addict, we got Oklahoma State start bench cut. And we also got those win totals out there for the SEC East. The SEC West is next for all you gamblers out there. So I thank everybody for joining in, man. It's been the Fan Addict for Johnathan Lewis, Kuz's Corner, JJ Kitchens. We out of here.
Good night, everybody.